What's up, ladies? Hey, it's Coach Steph. I'm really excited about today's live. We're talking about menopause, metabolism, and a menopause belly. We have a special guest, Coach Julie, who's going to fill some questions and answer you guys. And so I'm really excited about that. So if you're watching the replay, hashtag replay. And as you hop on, I want you to say hello and tell us where you're watching from. So this live is highly anticipated by me and by, I know, a lot of you. Hey, Mary. Thanks for watching. So, hey, Logan. Wanted to bring this topic because I was getting a lot of questions about this. So I wanted to bring on a guest expert and let's just talk about it. So I know a lot of people have a lot of questions, and as we get a little bit older, start gathering some fluffiness here in our abdominal area, and we're going to kind of go through your questions. Now, I know I did ask questions in the Facebook group, and y'all already have some awesome questions in here, so I'm going to make sure that I am able to get to those. So I'm just going to pull those up. If you guys have questions as we're going through here, you can do that as well. I am waiting on Coach Julie. Okay, I see her pop up, add again. It's shouting you, Julie. So, Coach Julie helps women over 40 drop fat for good, hit the metabolism, and feel like themselves again. Welcome, Julie.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing well. I am
Can I
excited to have
balance
you.
my phone for you? Sorry.
That's okay, girl. I was doing the exact same thing, trying to
Yeah,
get my lighting and everything together. So, yeah.
I know. Sorry, I do remember you telling me the phone thing, and then today I was like, so I was like teetering just so I don't have to hold it the whole time.
No worries. I'm glad that we were able to hop on. I told you, my people, y'all know I don't always be on time, but y'all better wait for me though. Um, so I'm really glad to have you here. You can go ahead and kind of like introduce yourself. And ladies, as you're hopping on, say hello. I see Regina. Hey, Regina. Go ahead and introduce yourself, and then we'll get into some of the questions that were already asked in the Facebook group.
Perfect. So, hi everyone. Hope you're having a great night and aren't too depressed. In Pittsburgh, it got dark at 5:30, so I'm like ready to pack it in for the night already, even though
Yeah.
it's only 8 o'clock. I can't handle this winter stuff. I was not meant to live where it's cold and dark like for this many hours at this time of year. But I'm Julie. I am a owner and coach at Happy Moms Lift, where I work with women 35 plus, helping them lose weight, get back into their, their favorite jeans that are kind of tucked in the back of the closet. But most importantly, just keep it off forever and find their happy, healthy weight that they're able to maintain with, relative ease.
Right. So I love that. So how long have you been helping women with menopause, women over 40?
So it's been about a year officially. And then I would say another year before that unofficially.
Okay, cool. So I'm looking through Facebook group. I know that a lady's already had a few questions, and we'll kind of start there. And then if there's anything else that you want to make sure you mention,
Yeah.
I will let you do that too.
Yeah. Perfect.
So we had a question from Valerie who said, I'm 65. I went through menopause at 27 naturally. I noticed that even if in the last 5 years, some things seem worse, like even with working out, I can't seem to lose any of the belly fat.
Yeah. Yeah. So a couple main things that are going on, if we can just kind of set the stage for people who might not even be sure like what's going on, right? So the whole perimenopause to menopause transition, you're seeing, I would say there's like three main things that are going on that mess with our hormones and mess with our body. The first is the decrease in estrogen. And estrogen is kind of, I always say like kind of like a drama queen. It's an anabolic hormone. And its main goal, it has a lot of goals, but one of the goals that it does is it drives the development of lean muscle mass. So without it, we have a harder time building muscle. It also causes a lot of inflammation if we just don't have enough. So that's why I think a lot of people describe themselves as feeling a little fluffier as our estrogen goes down. And then it also promotes insulin sensitivity. So the less estrogen we have, we're more insulin resistant. So the foods that we tended to eat before, we can absolutely still have carbs. All my clients still eat carbs, but the type of carbs that work better for our bodies shift a little bit, right? Definitely want to move to more whole foods. If you can get as many of your carbs from fruits and vegetables instead of baked lays and white bread, that always helps a little bit too. So you do tend to see some of that insulin resistance, which can cause some problems. And then with the lower estrogen, we start to see that belly fat or the fat kind of move towards the belly. It's just the positioning of where the fat is kind of shifts there. Like the second main thing that we see with perimenopause and menopause is an increase of cortisol, the stress hormone, right? So I forget the woman's name that is going through this. 27, yeah, there's definitely stress, but the older we get, our cortisol continues to rise, and life gets more stressful. Like, believe it or not, the older we get, like now we're not dealing with little kids, but we might be dealing with aging parents, older adult children. There's just a lot more stress. It's harder to sleep going through perimenopause, and that's a stress on our body. So there's a lot of stress that's in our lives now, and the more cortisol we have, it actually promotes belly fat, right? So as we get older, the things that we're doing actually cause this. Like, if you're not sleeping enough, I know a lot of people have a hard time sleeping because of the changes in hormones, but it's like this vicious cycle of, you're not sleeping enough, it increases your cortisol, and then you end up storing more belly fat, and that causes you more stress as well, right? And then I would say the third major thing that could be happening is, as we age, we naturally see a loss in muscle mass. It's just a natural aging process. Every decade, it starts after 30, it starts decreasing about 3 to 8%. And then after 60, it takes an even bigger jump. And so if nothing changes, like let's say you're always doing the exact same thing, the very fact that you're losing muscle mass, you're going to see a shift in your weight, because there's just less, your muscle is a big driver of your metabolism. So the less you have, your metabolism, I don't like to say your metabolism is slowing down, but it's burning less because there's just less muscle.
Mm-hmm. So, you said, well, I guess my question from what you said is, how can you tell if you're stressed? Because I coach a lot of women who are like, I'm not stressed.
Yeah.
Like, girl. So give us some signs, like what are some identifiers that like your body is physiologically going through stress?
Yeah. So heart racing, if you notice that your heart's doing like those palpitations or like racing, that's a huge sign of stress. If you have difficulty sleeping, if it's like a natural time at night, if you lay down and you're, I always say tired but wired. If you lay down and you're like, I am so tired, but you feel like you're in this like fight mode where your mind is going and your heart may or may not be going, but if you're just wired, I think we all know, if it feels like you've like drank a coffee and laid down, like when you're just like kind of tense, that's definitely another sign of stress. If you're sleeping like 5 to 6 hours a night, and feel like you always, you kind of wake up and you feel like garbage, and then the afternoon, if you hit that major slump, that's another sign that your cortisol is through the roof. Anxiety, anxiousness, if you kind of feel like you're maybe like a normal situation, like let's say somebody cuts you off when you're driving, if you feel like you go from like 0 to 100 in like anger and rage, your cortisol is up there. You're just naturally stressed. So many of us live kind of like at a stress level up here where we should be down here, and you don't even realize that this is not a good level of stress. Even though your mind is like, hey, this is my life, I always deal with this, it's not. Like, we want to try to reduce that stress as much as possible, especially the older we get, because those stress hormones are directly increasing your stomach fat. And the more stomach fat you have, there's actually more receptors in there to store more belly fat. So it's like this, again, this whole like vicious cycle. The more stomach fat you have, when you get stressed, you just end up storing more belly fat, which stomach fat increases your cortisol again, causing you to store more belly fat. So it's like this cycle. So you have to stop it somewhere, whether that's trying to address your stress levels, address your food, lifting. So like that's one of the, like when we talk about like, okay, what can you do? So like your estrogen's dropping, your cortisol is increasing, you're losing muscle mass, which sounds like a recipe for disaster, and it is. But we'll talk about what you can do with your nutrition and with exercise and stress management. But I would say those are some of the biggest signs that you're living at an elevated stress levels.
Yeah, and so with that, one of the questions that I usually ask for potential clients or clients is, what are you doing to like either manage your stress, or I might say like to work on your mindset? Like, if in the, I mean, most people say I'm not doing anything, or, I have people who are like, I'm just dragging myself through life. Like,
Yeah.
I do the obligations that I have to do in life.
Yeah.
And I'm not intentionally doing something that like lights my fire. And so I'm like literally helping them like find the spark of life. Like, you have to do something that
Yeah.
makes you happy.
Yeah.
That part of it, like coping with the stress that you have, because there's some things that are just stressful and you have to cope with the things, but then
Right.
like intentionally laughing, intentionally like doing something that really makes you happy. And
Yeah.
that kind of balances out, because life is always 50-50.
Yeah.
um so if you don't have that, I want you to take that away too, of like, I know this is about belly fat and about metabolism, but like, how are you managing your emotions, your mindset, um and your stress level?
Yeah.
Very
And
important.
I talk to my clients a lot too about gratitude. Like I literally have a whole episode or course that I kind of put them through about how you can use gratitude to lose weight, but it's going to exactly what you're saying with the stress. When you wake up every day, and if the first thing you do is either look at your phone, right, for your to-do list, like that's stressful. If you think about how hard your day is going to be, that's stressful. If you think about all the things you don't want to do today, that's stressful. But if you wake up and just quickly, even if you don't write it down, if you're not a journaler, but if you think about like three things that you're grateful for, and like legit, not like, oh, I'm so grateful I get to go to work. Haha. Like your mind knows when you're lying, right? But if you can let, in Pittsburgh, it's sunny, like, oh my goodness, thank goodness it's nice out today. And I am so lucky that I get the opportunity to work out. There's so many people who are in wheelchairs and they can't. Like it is truly a gift to be able to move my body. So truly be grateful for a few things every day. That's huge. And reprogramming your mind, instead of thinking like these are things I have to do, like I have, my trainer told me I have to get a walk in, my trainer told me I have to lift weights, my trainer told me I have to be eating this certain way. But these are all ways, there truly are gifts to your body, and it truly is you time, because you matter, right? We would all tell our kids, eat well, exercise, get sunlight, because we want the best for them. So we have to do the same things for us. We have to carve out time for us. I'm always telling my clients, like if they're in a time bind, to remind themselves like I matter too, like my needs matter too. Really, everyone says that, right? But prioritizing yourself and your needs is huge at this point in our lives, because most people have had kids. We've spent all this time raising them and doing everything they need and literally being there for their beck and call, right? Now, being over 40, it's kind of nice. They're a little more self-sufficient, and we matter too. So now it's time to kind of flip it a little bit and start prioritizing ourselves.
Yeah, I love that. I do the same with my clients. Most people that know that are, if y'all are in this group, y'all know I talk a lot about mindset. And if you're a client of mine, which I just saw a client that just signed on today that was on here earlier, I take them through it's basically a course. And it's like every day, just a little bit. Like, can you prioritize, is what I call a power hour. And it's not even a whole hour at first. It's just like, I need you to give your first few minutes to you
I
on
love that.
purpose,
Mm-hmm.
just a few minutes, right?
Yeah.
And then to make those connections in your brain a little
Yeah.
bit every single day,
Yeah.
so that in real life, your brain can go back to that connection because you
Mm-hmm.
practiced it,
Yeah.
right? And so if you're on here, I want you to rate your stress level on a scale from 1 to 10. So I always try to keep 10 as the best, just for my own, because I ask my clients this too. And I always try to keep 10 as the best, just so that I know. So 10 is the best. 10 means like I'm a 10, like I'm great, life is awesome, but I don't have very much stress. One is like I'm the most stressed. So I want you to type in the chat, where are you in terms of your stress level? 10 is the best, 10 is the least stress, one is the most stress. Where are you at on that spectrum? Um, and as y'all are dropping that in the chat, um, I I think whose question was that? I think it was Valerie's question. And so what I got from what you said, and I thank you because I went straight to a question and we didn't really even talk about like what is perimenopause, but you said low estrogen, increased inflammation, increased cortisol,
Cortisol.
right?
And decreased, I mean, yeah, and then the beginning of decreased muscle mass, like you're starting to lose muscle mass. So the
Right.
technical definition, I guess we should back up, right? The technical definition of perimenopause is just the transition period where you go from your regular cycle to inconsistent cycles. You may notice that you're starting to miss periods. You may have like really heavy, prolonged periods. Typically starts around 36. But normally it can start as early as 36, but normally I would say mid 40s. But some people do start around 36, and it can last anywhere from 8 to 10 years. They do say there's like a hereditary component. So if your mom is still around and if she remembers, you can talk to her about when she noticed the perimenopause starting. And then menopause, it's interesting, technically, by definition, menopause is one day. It's when you have gone 12 months without a period. So like menopause is just one day. And then the next day you're postmenopause. Everybody kind of tosses it into one lump, which is fine. But you'll spend most of your life either like in that perimenopause, or not life, but you'll spend like 8 to 10 years in the perimenopause, and then everything after is postmenopause. But most people will just say I'm in menopause, even though technically it's just one day.
That's so interesting. That
Yeah.
is really good. You just
Yeah,
taught
a
me
little fun
something
fact,
good.
right? But if you're wondering, like, am I in perimenopause? If you're starting to notice, like we said, those irregular periods, depression, irritability, difficulty sleeping, fatigue, hot flashes, brain fog, headaches, vaginal dryness, all of that, and more stomach fat, of course, right? All of that is signs that you're in this perimenopause transition. You may have 3 very normal cycles, and then you may go like 3 months without one, and then another one. So that's when you're in that perimenopause transition.
Yeah. So interesting because I know when we talked about you coming on, it had not dawned on me at all. Like when I think about menopause, I always think about someone else. And I was
Yes,
like,
right.
oh,
Someone
I'm
old, right?
39. I'm 39. I should probably like be a little bit more in tune to this. Um, okay, I'm gonna back these up. So I see lots of sevens, sixes, 4 to 5s. I see a 3. Sharonda, are you managing that stress? That's a low number. Karen is a 8, Lori's a 5, Regina's a 7. Saw lots of 6s and 7s. I might be postmenopause, hysterectomy, but kept ovaries. I have no idea where I am on the spectrum.
So if you still have your ovaries, are you getting a period? You wouldn't. You have ovaries. You can get it checked yeah, you'd have to know where your hormone levels are. Um, yeah, you can talk to your doctor about that and just go by symptoms, right? Um,
You said no.
yeah, I would just go by symptoms, like how are you feeling? You could also go to your OB/GYN and have them run a panel for you, and they can tell you where you are in the spectrum. Do you need to know? Really, not really. Based on your age alone, you can start. It never hurts to make some of the changes. So, like, I know I just gave you a whole lot of bad news, right? With we're losing muscle, our estrogen's low, our cortisol's high, but there's definitely a strategy. Let's put it that way. So I can't remember the brain fog. Sometimes I'll be talking to people and I'm like, I do have a brain. Keep that in mind. Like I'm not. And I guess I should tell you guys that too. So I'm 46. I am a breast cancer survivor. So when I was 38, I had breast cancer and it was estrogen positive. So at 40, so after going through all of my chemo, I had a double mastectomy. The doctor said, because of your age, I want you to take your ovaries out because my cancer was estrogen sensitive. So at 40, literally overnight, I became postmenopausal because I knew I was never going to have another period. So I have been in this menopause, postmenopause for almost 7 years now. And literally, not literally overnight, figuratively overnight, I gained 30 pounds. So I had my surgery one day, and I swear I woke up the next day 30 pounds heavier. It was legit more like a year. But there was a very definitive time where I went to put on my like summer shorts, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, did these shrink in my closet? Like, what happened? And it was just all the stomach fat, everything that I just talked about. So I get it. And I remember trying everything, like slashing calories, everything I thought would work, slashing calories, doing more cardio, cutting out carbs. And no matter what I did, I would just gain more weight or wouldn't lose weight. Or even if I lost a little bit, it would come right back. I have since learned, since studying nutrition and perimenopause and menopause and what we're supposed to do, I was literally doing everything wrong, right? So that's what I want to get across to all of you. Now more than ever, a balanced diet is key. You cannot slash calories crazy low. A modest calorie deficit, 20%, is perfect. And still eating all three macros, protein, carbs, fat. And I would especially encourage protein. So if you can hit 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, that's ideal. Now, if you're 75 to 80 pounds overweight, go off of your goal weight or your, a happy weight for you. Go 1 gram off of that weight. If you are lifting a ton, which we're going to talk about, you could even air 1.1, 1.22 grams per pound even. And then fat, if you can try to keep your fat around 35% of total calories, once you find out what your calories should be, that will help balance your hormones as well. And if you do those two things, if you increase your protein and increase your fat, because I know a lot of women start to try to like cut the fat out to lose fat, you will notice an incredible difference in how you feel, sustained energy throughout the day. The weight will start to peel off, and you won't have, I don't know if you guys have noticed, I used to at the end of the night, like just stare in the refrigerator. I was always not even hungry, like more mentally hungry, like just never felt satisfied. And that wasn't just for no reason. Well, I wasn't eating enough calories, but with the hormone shifts that you're seeing, your leptin hormone, which is the one that produces like your satisfaction, is really low. So you'll find yourself having more cravings in perimenopause and menopause and never really feeling satisfied. So by doing these couple of things, like eating more protein, eating more fat, it literally like calms your system down. So you finally feel satisfied and full, and you won't be doing all that crazy useless late night eating. So that's the first thing I would do. Focus on your nutrition, eating, the way we just talked about, and then your exercise has to change a little bit too. Instead of trying to do crazy amounts of HIIT and crazy amounts of cardio, prioritize strength training. I don't know how much, Stephanie, you've talked to the group about that. But strength, I assumed you do, right? Strength training is going to be your lifesaver for a couple reasons. It helps decrease your cortisol. And like we talked about, you're losing muscle mass. So we need to do everything under the sun to preserve it, and to add more. And nobody in this group is going to end up looking like the Incredible Hulk, right? It's just, we don't have the metabolism, we don't have the hormones to get truly bulky. But if you lift heavy, I'm not talking like the little pink dumbbells that you get at Walmart, right? You have to lift heavy, and heavy for you based on your experience. When you do, like, let's say you're doing, 8 to 10 reps. If your coach wants you to do 8 to 10 reps of something, you want your last 2 reps to be causing you to make a funny face. If you can be like talking to a friend or watching TV, not heavy enough. Like, so you need to lift your last 2 to be like, I don't think I can finish it, and not be able to talk and make a funny face. So that's how you know you're lifting heavy enough. That's going to help you build muscle, help you prevent the muscle loss that you're losing. And every little bit of muscle you add, it's going to keep stoking the fire, essentially, keep that metabolism burning. Last thing, one of the many things I want to tell you, HIIT. So I know a lot of people try to join like a Orange Theory because they hear, all these cute little 20-year-olds love Orange Theory. HIIT, because of our cortisol levels, is not the best thing for women over 40. Low impact steady state is great. So power walking, if you had an exercise bike and could just kind of like steady state pedal on your exercise bike, that's fine. But I would say 4 to 5 days of lifting and maybe just 2 of your low impact steady state. And then just keep your steps up, like your natural steps throughout the week. Monitor your steps on a watch, 8 to 10,000, just keeping active. You'll see dramatic changes in your body.
So are y'all hearing this? Because I'm gonna need y'all to hear this because I am not the only one who is saying, number one, increase your weights, and Merelda knows, like increase your weights until the whole point of lifting weights is like pushing yourself really close to failure, right? Like you want to be thinking, uh-oh, I don't know if I'm gonna make it, right? That's how you know you're lifting heavy enough.
Yeah.
So we talked about managing your nutrition, making sure that you're strength training and not killing yourself with high intensity cardio, which is what a lot of us tend to like go to. Is like, okay, how much can I sweat during this 1 hour? How much is my watch telling me that I'm going to burn?
Right.
If you're lifting weights and you're building muscle mass, you're going to burn calories for a longer period of time and not just that 1 hour.
Correct. Yeah.
Another thing that I think that is really important that people tend to overlook is your steps and like just walking, which is typically one of the low, like easier things for people to do. Like there's not as much resistance to like going in and just like, okay, let me just take a walk. So I even have like in my app, it's a YouTube video that is a walking workout at home.
Seriously?
So it doesn't matter. Yes, they have walking workouts on YouTube. Like, oh, it's cold outside. Oh, okay. Here you go. You can still get your, 8K steps today.
Yeah.
So everything is figure outable. That's kind of my mentality. Like, okay, we're going to figure this out.
Yeah.
So I saw, what about bar? I don't know much about bar. Do you
I don't know
anything
what
about
bar. What is bar?
I think bar is like, I don't want to say ballerina, but like ballet. Correct me if I'm wrong, Akia. Let me know.
Yeah, I don't
know.
I don't know if we have bar.
Can you repeat the protein, carbs, fat targets again, she said?
Yeah, so for protein, I recommend 1 gram of protein per pound of ideal body weight, right? If you're 75 pounds overweight, you don't have to hit that high. Now, if you're a vegetarian or I should say vegan, if you're a vegan, get it as high as you can. Are there any vegans in the group?
Not too many. I don't attract a lot of vegans.
Yeah. I have one vegan on my roster, and we work really, really hard to help her hit her protein. It's possible, just a little bit harder. So 1 gram per pound of body weight. Fat, aim for at least 30, ideally 35% of your total calories. And then the rest falls into your carbs.
Okay, you got
and
that.
A modest deficit. So if you're trying to figure out and do not, under any circumstance, look at how many calories MyFitnessPal tells you should eat. I don't care who you are. They love to put you at a 1,200 calorie diet. It is not good for our hormones, perimenopause, postmenopause women. Do you give them a calculator, Stephanie, in your group? Do they have
not in the group as a client, and Francesca just signed up today, so I got you, girl. I'm going to give you all of your macros and everything.
Yeah,
but yeah, my clients
if you're working with Stephanie, she'll cover you. But if anyone's like kind of doing this on their own, do not use MyFitnessPal to calculate your total calories. The easiest thing you can do, honestly, is track your food for 2 weeks, right? If you track religiously, every bite, lick, and taste. I'm not talking about making a peanut butter sandwich and then licking the spoon. Like all of that stuff adds up, right? If you cook chicken and you put oil in the pan, you have to account for some of that oil. So track your food religiously for 2 weeks. And if you stay the same weight, those are your maintenance calories, right? So take 20% off of that, and that will put you in a moderate deficit. I would not recommend more than 20%. It'll make you really depressed, and it hurts your hormones. So it's much easier to stick with them. As much as, we want the weight off yesterday. I've tried that for 30 years. It does not work. 20%, I encourage everyone to start with a 20% deficit. And then, you'll be able to stick with that. And it keeps your hormones happy, most importantly.
Yeah. So she said ballet Pilates mixture. So that's what bar is.
Okay. Yeah, that's probably more, it sounds lovely. And I think it would help with your stress levels, because I think it would. It sounds like it's probably like relaxation, endurance, muscular endurance, less strength. If it makes you happy, do it 1 or 2 days a week, but I would try to aim for a minimum of 3 days of strength training that you can do with progressive overload, which is what Stephanie was starting to talk about, right? This week, if you're using 10-pound reps and doing something 12 times, next week, see if you can bump up to 12-pound weights. So you want, when you go to those classes, nobody's really focusing on progressive overload. So you might do, something this week, something else next week. So you're never really getting your muscles to, people hate the word tone, but to be toned, to build is toned, right? So you want to make sure that you're doing a program where you can progress. So you are building muscle, which will burn fat, and specifically stomach fat. So when you lift and lift heavy, it will specifically target, even if you're doing legs, it will start to burn off your stomach fat, which is a beautiful benefit of lifting heavy. As soon as I tell people that, they're like, sold. You'll notice complete body composition changes, way more so than if you just try to run your heart out.
Yeah, and I want you just to pause on that part, because a lot of people think like, oh, if I want to get rid of this belly fat, I have to do lots of ab
Right.
exercises. So when you're lifting weights all over your body and you're building muscle all over your body, that means you're burning calories and fat all over your body,
Yes.
including
Yeah.
your abdominals.
Yep.
So don't think that, okay, if I need a flatter stomach, then I just got to do a lot of crunches,
Yeah.
because that's not the case.
Yeah.
So Patricia has a question. Should our diet, strength training, and cardio be intentionally different versus those not in menopause, especially when we have a tendency for belly fat due to hormonal shift?
Wait, read that question one more time.
Should our diet, strength training, and cardio be intentionally different versus those not in menopause?
You could, the diet recommendations are good for everybody. When you're not in menopause, you have a little more, I'd say, flexibility to add HIIT if you want to, because your cortisol isn't going to be as much of a concern. Normally, when cortisol rises, we have estrogen to kind of battle it back down. So if you're not in menopause or not in perimenopause, if you do something stressful like a HIIT workout, you've got cortisol, you have estrogen to battle it back down and not cause an increase in belly fat. So I would say you could safely do HIIT a few days a week if you wanted to, but 1,000% still do lifting like we talked about. That's good for I would tell any woman, regardless of their hormonal status, to do that. And same with the protein recommendations. Your fat could be a little lower. You could probably do 30%. Most women shouldn't go below 60 grams of fat a day, regardless of kind of the perimenopause or menopause status.
Okay, cool. So if we're thinking about, if someone here is watching and they're struggling, what are the top 3 tips? And then my second question that I actually just thought of, are there any supplements that you might recommend for any of the symptoms that are associated with menopause?
Yeah, again, talk with your doctor. I'm not an MD, but ashwagandha is a great one that a lot of people find that will help relieve hot flashes, mood swings. It's kind of like a nice chill out supplements. A lot of people like that. Magnesium, a lot of people find great help with. Vitamin D can often be very helpful. And if anyone's having like dryness issues, maca is another good one that's supposed to help increase drive and decrease pain, because painful sex becomes a really big issue at this point in life. So vitamin D, ashwagandha, maca. Did I say a fourth one? Magnesium is another one.
Okay, cool. I love this. And can you type the names for future reference? Yes, I will. And
Okay.
or me or
I
Julie
don't know
will.
how to type. I know this whole thing stresses me out, Stephanie. I'll let you type those in.
No, yeah. No, I got it. And I'll probably do it afterwards because I'm a really bad typer. But I
Okay.
was writing them down. I write notes while I listen.
Yeah,
I'm
and
just
I
like
can
really
text you
writing
those
notes.
things too, Stephanie, so you can include them.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. So as we recap, top 3 tips. So listen up, ladies.
Top 3 tips. Strength training, prioritize strength training over cardio, and lifting as heavy as possible. Number 2, not to cut your calories drastically, and not to eliminating any food groups. This number 2 is like all combined. And then prioritizing protein, right? And the last one would be stress management, making sure you're creating downtime, literally like schedule breathing, and sleep. If you can, I don't know if we talked about sleep yet. 7 to 8 hours at minimum. And it all gets back, everything kind of ties back to cortisol, right? When you don't sleep enough, your cortisol is going to be elevated. And as soon as cortisol is elevated, all hell breaks loose. So we want to make sure we're prioritizing good quality sleep, would be my last tip. And then here's another, we're going to get like 4 or 5. When you do work out, pretty much anything that worked when you were in your 20s does not work anymore. If you just kind of keep that in mind, you want to make sure you work out in a fueled state, not a fasted state. You do not have to have a steak meal before you work out, but if you work out in the morning, you want to make sure you have some protein, some carbs, and a tiny bit of fat. Not too much fat, because fat takes longer to digest, and we want your body to have access to that fuel as quickly as possible. It gets back to cortisol. If you work out in a fasted state, that's very stressful for your body. So like, let's say you slept 5 hours last night because you were up with, for whatever reason. If you wake up, your cortisol is already elevated. If you add a strength training workout without any fuel, that elevates your cortisol. And what a lot of people then do is say, like, I'm going to grab coffee and go to my office, and I'm going to intermittent fast till lunch, right? And if you don't feed yourself after your workout, your cortisol is now through the roof, and you're going to end up increasing that belly fat. So everything you thought you were doing to help yourself has just made your situation a whole lot worse. So fuel yourself before your workout, and fuel yourself after. Within 30 minutes, you want to make sure you get at least 30 grams of protein and some carbs after you work out as well.
Yeah.
That was way more than 3 top tips, but
no, we love it. We love all the tips. I'm here for the tips. And I just want to stress too that what you said about, if you're not getting enough sleep, 7 to 8 hours of sleep, that is stressful for your body.
Yeah.
If you are constantly in a calorie deficit,
right,
that is stress on your body. So I have so many clients, most of them are not actually eating enough. And I'm like, oh, we actually aren't eating enough. That is stressful on your body. Again, cortisol goes up.
Right.
The fasted workouts you mentioned,
right.
The caffeine, like all of the things, like then you're wondering why, like, okay, I'm stuck.
Why
right?
isn't
Like
this
I'm
working
eating
right?
so little and I'm not, and I'm stuck.
Yeah. And 7 to 8 hours is like a minimum, I would say. Like if you could err on the 8 to 9, I know it's so hard. But if the more sleep you can get, your body will thank you, and you'll see the results.
Yeah. And we talked last time, if you missed our last live with myself and Coach Kayla, we talked about the diet phases and how long you should be in each diet phase, and why you shouldn't be in a calorie deficit for months and months and years and years, and how long it actually might take you to toggle, if you have a lot of weight to lose. So go back. If you have not watched that, that was also a really, really good one.
Yeah, that's really
but
good
I have,
yeah.
Yeah. For sure. These two have definitely been one of the best and most requested, for sure.
Yeah.
So I love all of the information that you gave us. What is a way that they can follow you on Instagram, and if you have any freebies or anything like that?
Yeah. So I'm on Instagram. I'm Happy Moms Lift. And then if you're on my Instagram page, if you click the link, I've got a macro-friendly grocery guide, kind of like everything I buy, and based on the stores and based on how expensive, like what stores have the best prices. And then I also have a free class. It's just when you sign up for it, it'll just send it to you, that kind of talks about all the stuff that we just talked about, how to lose the menopause midsection. So we go into, you'll get a little more details, like what we just covered.
Yes, and I'm dropping this in the chat. I am dropping her Instagram handle. I am dropping her other link for, I think it's the freebie. Let me see, let me paste. So y'all make sure to go and follow her. I've also been shouting her out a lot on my Instagram. So you can get the link there, but I just dropped those links. Yeah, so such a good topic. Thank you for all of the knowledge bombs that you dropped. If y'all have questions afterwards, leave them in the chat. But thank you for coming, Julie. I really appreciate it.
It was helpful, and hopefully people realize, like, there is hope. That's what I want everyone to know. You're not destined to have to wear leggings forever, right? Like, you can get back into your jeans. It's possible.
It's possible. So if you need help, you can reach out to either one of us. We're both open for coaching. You can tell them about what are you taking clients now?
I am starting my wait list. I'll be opening, oh my gosh, it's almost December. In December, my next cohort will begin so that you can hop on the wait list. For one-on-one coaching is currently my only offer because I truly believe people need that one-on-one connection and do the best when they have that support.
All right. I love it. Thank you. Thanks, Mary, Lakia, Regina, Francesca. Thank y'all for watching. Y'all hung out with us for a while. Thanks,
Thanks,
Patricia.
everybody.
All right. Thank you, Julie,
Have
so
a great
much.
night.
You too. Bye bye.
Thanks. Bye.